This is chapter 8 of Treasure Island, titled At the Sign of the Spyglass. When I had done breakfasting, the squire gave me a note addressed to John Silver at the sign of the Spyglass, and told me I should easily find the place by following the line of the docks and keeping a bright lookout for a little tavern with a large brass telescope for a sign. Here's a picture of a telescope. A spyglass. Nowadays, if you want to look at something that's a long distance away, you use a pair of binoculars like that. But then they used a spyglass. I set off, overjoyed at this opportunity to see some more of the ships and seamen, and picked my way among a great crowd of people and carts and bales. Bales are large, they would be large packets of cloth like cotton or paper or wool. For the dock was now at its busiest until I found the tavern in question. A tavern is like a cafe. It was a bright enough little place of entertainment. The sign was newly painted. The windows had neat red curtains. The floor was cleanly sanded. They put sand on the floor so people wouldn't slip and to catch the spills. There was a street on either side and an open door on both, which made the large, low room pretty clear to see in spite of clouds of tobacco smoke. The customers were mostly seafaring men, and they talked so loudly that I hung at the door, almost afraid to enter. As I was waiting, a man came out of a side room, and at a glance I was sure he must be Long John. His left leg was cut off close by the hip, and under his left shoulder he carried a crutch, which he managed with wonderful dexterity. Now, dexterity means he was handy with it, because dexter is your right hand. So just as your right hand is your best hand and the one that you're most able to do things with, so it's dexterous, or he had wonderful dexterity, hopping about on it like a bird. He was very tall and strong, with a face as big as a ham, and pale but intelligent and smiling. Indeed, he seemed in the most cheerful spirits, whistling as he moved about among the tables, with a merry word or a slap on the shoulder for the more favored of his guests. Now, to tell you the truth, from the very first mention of Long John in Squire Trelawney's letter, I had taken a fear in my mind that he might prove to be the very one-legged man whom I had watched for so long at the old Benbow. You'll remember the captain had told him several times, "Watch out for a one-legged man. If you see one, tell me right away." Well, he never did see him, but all of a sudden, here comes a one-legged man. His name is Long John Silver. But one look at the man before me was enough. I'd seen the captain, who's now dead, and Black Dog, and the blind man Pew, and I thought I knew what a buccaneer was like. A very different creature, according to me, from the clean and pleasant-tempered landlord. I plucked up courage at once, crossed the threshold, that is to say, he came in the door, and walked right up to the man where he stood, propped up on his crutch, talking to a customer. "Mr. Silver, sir?" I asked, holding out the note. "Yes, my lad," said he, "such is my name, to be sure. And who may you be?" And then, as he saw the squire's letter, he seemed to me to give something almost like a start. "Oh," said he quite loud, and offering his hand, "I see, you're our new cabin boy. Pleased I am to see you." And he took my hand in his large, firm grasp. Just then, one of the customers at the far side rose suddenly and made for the door. But his hurry had attracted my notice, and I recognized him at a glance. It was the tallow-faced man. That is kind of yellow-colored man. Tallow is wax made from beef, from cows. Wanting 2 fingers, meaning he was missing 2 fingers, which 2 I don't know, who had come first to the Admiral Benbow. You remember, he was the one who met the captain and gave him the black spot. "Oh," I cried, "stop him! It's Black Dog." "I don't care 2 coppers who he is," cried Silver, "but he hasn't paid his score. Harry, run and catch him." Meaning he didn't pay his bill. He just got up and ran out the door as soon as he saw Jim Hawkins. One of the others, who was the nearest the door, leaped up and started in pursuit. "If he were Admiral Hawke, he shall pay his score," cried Silver. Turns out Admiral Hawke is a real person. He was a commander of a ship which won a victory in 1744, and he became what they called the Admiral of the Fleet, meaning he was like the Ramatkal of the British Navy. He was the admiral in charge of the British Navy, so he's quite a guy. That also gives us our time for this story. It's almost 250 years ago that this took place. "He shall pay his score," cried Silver, and then, relinquishing my hand, letting it go, "Who did you say he was?" he asked. "Black what?" "Dog, sir," said I. "Has Mr. Trelawney not told you of the buccaneers? He was one of them." "So," cried Silver, "in my house? Ben, run and help Harry. One of those swabs, was he? Was that you drinking with him, Morgan? Step up here." He's calling out to another man. The man whom he called Morgan, an old, gray-haired, mahogany-faced sailor, meaning he's been tanned by the sun so long that his skin is dark color, came forward pretty sheepishly, rolling his quid. Now, his quid is a lump of tobacco. They used to chew tobacco. They would take, instead of smoking it, they would chew it, because you couldn't always smoke it in a wooden ship. If the ship burned up, you were in the middle of the ocean on nothing. "Now, Morgan," said Long John very sternly, "you never clapped your eyes on that black dog before, did you now?" "Not I, sir," said Morgan with a salute. "You didn't know his name, did you?" "No, sir." "By the powers, Tom Morgan, it's as good for you," exclaimed the landlord. "If you'd been mixed up with the like of that, you would never have put another foot in my house. You may lay to that." "And what was he saying to you?" "I don't rightly know, sir," answered Morgan. "Do you call that a head on your shoulders, or a blessed dead-eye?" cried Long John. "Don't rightly know, don't you?" Hang on, we'll show you what a dead-eye is. A dead-eye is a way of tying ropes together, and here is a picture, if I can get it, of a dead-eye. Let's see. That picture there is a dead-eye. You see, it's a wooden disc. There are 3 holes in it, and you can pass ropes through it. So you can use it to put things together, and the ropes can be pulled on and tightened up. It's called a dead eye because it's got two eyes and a nose or a mouth. But it's a block of wood. So if you're a dead eye, you're about as smart as a block of wood. Perhaps you don't rightly know who you was speaking to, perhaps. Come now, what was he, John? Voyages, captains, ships? Pipe up, what was it? We was a-talking of keel hauling, answered Morgan. Keel hauling, was you? Said and a mighty suitable thing, too, and you may lay to that. Get back to your place for the lubber, Tom. The keel hauling was pulling somebody under the bottom of a ship as a punishment. It was pretty severe. And we'll look at the keel later. And then as Morgan rolled back to his seat, Silver added to me in a confidential whisper that was very flattering, so I thought. He's quite an honest man, Tom Morgan, only stupid. And now he ran on again aloud. Let's see. Black Dog. No, I don't know the name. Not I. Yet I kind of think Yes, I've seen this swab. He used to come here with a blind beggar, That he did, you may be sure, said I. I knew that blind man, too. His name was Pew. We all remember Pew. It was, cried Silver, now quite excited. Pew! That were his name for certain. Ah, he looked like a shark, he did. If we run down this Black Dog now, there'll be news for Captain Trelawney. Ben's a good runner. A few seamen run better than Ben. He should run him down hand over hand by the powers. He talked a keel hauling, did he? I'll keel haul him. All the time he was jerking out these phrases, he was stumping up and down the tavern on his crutch, slapping tables with his hand, and giving such a show of excitement as would have convinced an Old Bailey judge or a Bow Street runner. My suspicions had been thoroughly reawakened on finding Black Dog at the Spyglass, the name of the inn, and I watched the cook, that was Long John Silver, narrowly. But he was too deep and too ready and too clever for me. And by the time the two men had come back out of breath and confessed that they had lost the track in a crowd and been scolded like thieves, I would have gone bail for the innocence of Long John Silver, meaning Long John Silver convinced him that he knew nothing of Black Dog or Pew or buccaneers or anything of the sort. See here now, Hawkins, said he. Here's a blessed hard thing on a man like me now, ain't it? There's Captain Trelawney. What's he to think? Here I have this confounded son of a Dutchman sitting in my own house, drinking of my own rum. Here you come and tells me of it plain, and here I let him give us all the slip before my blessed dead lights. Meaning in front of his eyes, he let him go. Now, Hawkins, you do me justice with the captain. You're a lad, you are, but you're as smart as paint. I see that when you first come in. Now, here it is. What could I do with this old timber I hobbled on, pointing to his crutch? When I was an A.B. Master Mariner, A.B. means able-bodied, Master Mariner means a top-class, first-class seaman. A mariner is a seaman, and master means master. He was at the top of his trade. I'd have come up alongside of him, hand over hand, and broached him, too, in a brace of old shakes, I would. But now, broached him means brought him close. he would have come up alongside of him like a ship coming up alongside of another ship, and they would have tied him, he would have tied him together, and they would have been, and he would have caught him. And then all of a sudden he stopped, and his jaw dropped, as though he'd remembered something. "The score!" he burst out. "3 goes of rum! Why, shiver my timbers if I hadn't forgotten my score!" That means the bill for the rum. I believe that must be the rum that Black Dog drank, 3 glasses of rum. That costs a pretty penny. And falling on a bench, he laughed until the tears ran down his cheeks. I could not help joining, and we laughed together, peal after peal, until the tavern rang again. "Why, what a precious old sea-calf I am," he said at last, wiping his cheeks. "You and me should get on well, Hawkins, for I'll take my Davy. I should be rated ship's boy," meaning he's as inexperienced as the cabin mate, as the ship's cabin boy, a brand new on the ship. "But come now, stand by to go about. This won't do. Duty is duty. Messmates, I'll put on my old cocked hat and step along of you to Captain Trelawney and report him here this affair. For mind you, it's serious, young Hawkins, and neither you nor me's come out of it with what I should make so bold as to call credit." "Not you neither," says you. "Not smart, none of that pair of us smart." "But dash my buttons, that was a good 'un about my score, ha ha." And he began to laugh again, and that so heartily that though I did not see the joke as he did, and to tell you the truth, I don't see the joke as he did either, I was again obliged to join him in his mirth. On our little walk along the quays, that is the docks, he made himself the most interesting companion, telling me about the different ships that we passed by, their rig, tonnage, and nationality, explaining the work that was going forward, how one was discharging, meaning taking cargo off, another taking in cargo, and a third making ready for sea. They were getting all their provisions on. They had to take fresh water, they had to take food, hardtack, rum, all the things that they need. Now, there's a picture here. This is a picture of the harbor at Bristol, which is where they are. I'll show you that in 1 second. It's not quite as busy now as it was at that time. Now you can see, let's see, there we are. There's a schooner called the Gallant, and it is in Bristol Harbor. And you can see over here the dock, and this ship is tied up, at the dock. And that looks like a schooner with 2 masts and topsails. All the sails are furled, meaning they're rolled up, so they're not hanging down, except for that one in the front. And every now and then, telling me some little anecdote of ships or seamen. An anecdote is a little story. Or repeating a nautical phrase till I had learned it perfectly, meaning the language of the sea, such as Deadeye. I began to see that here was one of the best of possible shipmates. He was, you can hear it, he was a very amicable, friendly, knowledgeable, and wanted to teach. When we got to the inn, the squire and Dr. Livesey were seated together, finishing a quart of ale and a toast in it. I think a quart of ale is beer, and the toast, I suspect the toast is not a piece of floating bread, but I suspect the toast is a couple of shots of whiskey. Before they should go aboard the schooner on a visit of inspection, Long John told the story from first to last, with a great deal of spirit and the most perfect truth. "That was how it were now, weren't it, Hawkins?" he would say now and again, and I would always bear him entirely out, meaning he was always telling the truth, exactly what happened. The two gentlemen regretted that black dog had got away, but we all agreed there was nothing to be done, and after he had been complimented, Long John took up his crutch and departed. He left. "All hands aboard by 4 this afternoon," shouted the squire after him. "Aye, aye, sir," cried the cook in the passage. That's more of that nautical lingo. "Aye, aye, sir" means yes, yes, sir. And "all hands aboard" means everyone, the whole crew, has to be on the ship. "Well, squire," said Dr. Livesey, "I don't put much faith in your discoveries as a general thing, but I will say this: John Silver suits me." So Dr. Livesey liked him also. Jim Hawkins liked him, but Jim didn't quite trust him. "The man's a perfect trump," declared the squire. The squire liked him. "And now," added the doctor, "Jim may come on board with us, may he not?" "To be sure he may," says Squire. "Take your hat, Hawkins, and we'll see the ship." That's the end of this chapter. But before I leave, I'm going to show you one thing. We mentioned the word keel, and the keel is the bottom of a ship. And I have a picture which is it's a little difficult. So we'll take a look and see what we can see here. Let me get that. There we go. The keel. Now, it's a little hard to see, but if you look here, you can see this post coming down and this beam running along here. This is a wooden ship, and it's not very clear, but this is how they build the ship. The first thing they put down is the keel, this long wooden beam that runs from one end of the ship all the way up to the other end over there. Over there. And then they add what are called the ribs. All of these, which form the hull of the ship. That's all a frame. And then this is the stern of the ship, and this post would be what the rudder would be hung from, so that the rudder to steer the ship. So that's what it is. And this is the keel. It's the very bottom of the ship. And that's it for now.